Yves. Hi, friends. Good morning to you, or good evening to you from here. Good afternoon, wherever you are from in the world. Eimear Burke here, and welcome to another Fireside Chat brought to you by the Order of Bards, OBODs and Druids. So just let me know where you're from. Hi, Sherry from New York, Lisa from Washington, Stephanie from Utah, lovely to see you again, Anne Catherine from London, and Stefan from Dartford, Kent. Hi, Hannah from South Wales, Julia from dreary London. It's a bit dreary here too. Lyndon from Bournemouth, Ava from Belgium, lovely to see you. Chrissy, hi, from Norfolk. Where have we got? Lovely to see you all. So you're also so welcome. And David from along Lake Ontario, lovely. And Deborah from Montana, it's lovely to see you all across the water. And Mary Lane, lovely to see you. Anna from Portugal, Kelly, Louisiana, lovely. And Zane, hi to you. And Kathleen from Vancouver Island. And James Wood, lovely. New Mexico, wonderful. And Nova Scotia, Portugal, Broadstairs, and Southampton, lovely. Mactoma Mahoney in Louisiana, James, that's lovely. Mahu, your Irish is lovely. Great. Albuquerque, wonderful. So, welcome, and let me introduce you to my guest today. We're going to near the New Forest, and I'd like to introduce you to OBOD member Gail Ellis. Gail, you're so welcome.
Thank you, Eimear. Nice to see you, and peace and blessings of the full moon to you at this time.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So, do you actually live in the New Forest, or you're near it?
I'm in the district of the New Forest, but the actual forest to get to is probably about 3 or 4 miles walk. So I drive there normally. So very close indeed. Very close indeed to the landscape of the New Forest, which is absolutely beautiful. I'm very blessed.
So I've never been, and it's on my list, and I'm sure many of our viewers have never been there. So can you describe your landscape?
I can. I do have a few notes, but I'm just going to look sideways. Just want to make sure I get everything. So we're in the south of England, and we're bordered by Dorset and Wiltshire on the west, North Berkshire, Berkshire on the north, and East Surrey. On the east, there's Surrey and West Sussex, and to the south of us is the English Channel. So you've got the sea there. We're very close to Avebury, and we're close enough to drive to Avebury and to Stonehenge as well. So we have a lot of land, sea and sky, which is absolutely wonderful. Yeah, absolutely wonderful.
And do you belong to a grove there?
I do belong to a grove. I belong to, well, it's a sea group. I belong to the clan of Ytene, Ytene. And we practice in Wilverley Plain, which is, I'm going to just make sure I get the right place. We're just west of Lyndhurst and south of Burley. And Burley was the home of Sybil Leek, who was a very famous witch woman. So she lived quite near there. She's not alive anymore. And we also practice at the site of what's called the Naked Man, which is quite a famous place as well, that was used by witches during the war to ward off Hitler and various things like that, so they say. And where we practice is called the Naked Man. There are reasons why it's called the Naked Man, or there are fables why it's called the Naked Man. There was a large oak tree there at one time. At the moment, there's just a plaque there. But there was a large oak tree there, and it was supposed to be a hanging tree. And fable says that the reason it's called the Naked Man is because someone was waiting to be hung, got struck by lightning, and all his clothes fell off. So I'm not quite sure if that's true or not. So anyway, the clan of Ytene, yes, I have worked with other groups as well in the past, but I'm very fortunate to be working with the clan of Ytene, and it's what it says. It's a clan. You know, you sort of find where you belong. It is registered with OBOD as a C group, the clan of Ytene, and we practice Druidcraft. You know, like Philip Carl Gomm's book Druidcraft. We practice Druidcraft, and that encompasses lots of things. We obviously follow the Wheel of the Year and have all the celebrations, and we have open rituals at the Naked Man site, and people are very welcome to come. And just to say, Etain was sort of supporting the old name of the New Forest, which was Etain, and Etain was the Jutish kingdom, you know, Saxons and all that, the Jutes who came from Denmark, Jutland in Denmark. They were there until William the Conqueror came there and decided to turn it into, and I think it was decided to turn it into a hunting ground for himself. But so we're going back to the old name of Etain there, which I think is wonderful, and hopefully link up with the ancestors. And with
wonderful. Liz Crouch says, and she knows the hanging man, she says, people were hung until their bones were stripped bare, hence the naked man. So that
makes sense. That makes sense. Thank you, Liz. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
She says Etain means New Forest.
Etain means New Forest. There's somewhere else that it says that Etain was also a word used for giant as well.
Okay.
But Etain was the name for it, the New Forest. And it's not really a new forest. It was called the Nova Forest by William the Conqueror, because he basically got rid of everything that was there. So they say, and just made it his own. So the churches and the people and various things like that, I believe, had to go.
Okay. Julia has a question for you. How does Julia, how does Druidcraft differ from Druidry? Can you tell them a little bit more about it?
I can. I'd like to refer you to the book written by Philip Colgom, which is about Druidcraft. I suppose it's a melding of the two. So you have your way of the Druid, and you have the sort of the turning of the wheel with the sun. You have the winter. You have the summer, and then you have the equinoxes on either side, and then you also go to the fire festivals. So you have your Beltane, you have Lunasa, you have your Samhain, and you have your Imbolc. So there are fire festivals, and there are many ways to practice Druidcraft, many ways. But one way you can do is you can honor the sun festivals, so the solstices and the equinoxes in a Druid fashion. And then you can honor the fire festivals in a craft fashion. So looking at the old craft ways. But everyone who I know who practice Druidcraft tend to do it in their own way, really. Some just combine the whole thing. So they're looking at not necessarily Wiccan either. It can just be old craft roots, so the way of old craft. The New Forest is quite famous for old craft, with Gerald Gardner, Dorothy Clutterbuck, and various people like that. So one can combine the craft with the Druidry. I practiced Druidcraft myself as a solitary before joining the clan. So I just find it a really holistic way to work. And I was also in craft before I was in Druidry as well. So sort of bringing some of those things through, bringing some magic through. Not that there's not magic in Druidry, because there's certainly a lot of it.
Okay, Cliff says, and don't forget the moon cycle. Do you work with the moon as well in your seed group?
Sometimes it works out that there's a full moon, but following the Druid way, we're always working with in our own individual way, working with peace with the full moon. But if there is a full moon, obviously that would be honored as well. Yes. And obviously the moon is really, really important, because it's a balance of the sun.
Indeed.
The feminine, the masculine, yeah.
So so you started off with the craft, and so what brought you then to Druidry and to OBOD?
Well, I was very lucky and very fortunate to be invited to go and visit some authors in Ireland who are quite well known for some books that they wrote. And while I was visiting them with a couple of other people, I managed to meet a druid chap, a fluid druid, who lived with them in sort of a little shed at the side. And he told me about Ogham. He told me about the language of the trees. He took me for a walk around Tara.
Okay.
He took me to various other magical places. But he took me into the woods and showed me honeysuckle twists and told me about dryads and told me about this and told me about that. And I was absolutely spellbound by what he was telling me.
Mm.
And I had the honor of being able to spend about 8 or 9 hours with him. And he showed me all the urn that he'd made. He showed me his bog oak staff that he'd whittled, of which I now have it, which I'm very lucky because it was gifted to me by someone else. But yeah, I mean, I was absolutely mesmerized. And then he mentioned OBOD, and he said, I don't think that you're a witch. He said, I think you're a druid. And I went, really? And to be honest, I'd been studying Ogham. I'd been gathering my own Ogham for about a year before then anyway, because I love the trees. And I like to go and be with trees and be out there, but just very, very interested in the qualities of each tree, you know, what it can help you with, physically, emotionally, herbally, you know, magically. So anyway, I contacted OBOD and joined, and that was in 2004. And yeah, that was it really. I probably for the Bardic year, I probably did do a year and a day.
Okay.
And it was absolutely wonderful. And I did realize that my path definitely was more of a druid way than it was the type of craft that I was doing, because I was working in Wicca. I wasn't working in old craft or anything. I was working in Wicca. And it was quite, it was very structured. Wicca was very structured. And there were lots of do's you must do and you mustn't do. That doesn't really sit very well with me. I'm a bit of a rebel, I suppose, in that way, but it didn't sit with me spiritually. So yeah. I was so glad that I met Aj, which his name was not quite sure what's happened to him. Someone thinks he just walked into a bog and that was the end of it. But I don't know. I absolutely don't know. But I'm so pleased I met him. He was a wonderful man, wonderful stories he told. And yeah, if I hadn't have met him, you know, that's sort of one of those pivotal moments, isn't it, in your life, when you meet someone and they sort of send you off in a different direction.
That's a wonderful story. It's a wonderful story.
Yeah, he was pretty good. And then I stayed. So I was in the Bardic for about a year and loved what happens in the Bardic. It's fantastic. Worked with a group. We worked together, and then I went on to the Ovate and was in that for rather a long time, which for me was very important because there was so much to do. I was in there about just over 9 years, and thoroughly enjoyed that, and also had some great despairing moments as well, because I think that might be part of my journey. I learned so much in the Ovate.
I'm going to come back to that. Just Lisa has I don't know if you can answer this. How did the ancient Druids use fire in celebrations compared with the newer expressions used by today's fire performers in festivals such as Bealtaine? What do you think about these newer arts? I don't know if you have an opinion on this.
I probably won't be able to answer how the ancient Druids used fire in celebrations because they're ancient and we don't have many writings. use today's fire performance in festivals. So, for example, are you talking about fire sticks and sort of twirling the sticks and working up energy that way, Lisa? Is it that type of thing? Sort of fire sticks and music and.
She said she recently started learning rope dart.
Okay.
Art.
Lisa, I'm afraid I have no idea what that is at all. But any expression of fire, I mean, there are many, many ways to express fire, outwardly and inwardly. And I think anything that's creative is wonderful, because for me, and I think for a lot of other people as well, Druidry shouldn't be static. It should be moving, it should be growing, it should be developing. And if people come up with wonderful new ways of expression, then that's to be honoured. But I'm going to have to look into that and see what that means, because it sounds exciting. But I love fire twirling. I love fire twirling with batons and sort of fire magic, drumming. Wonderful and creative.
Absolutely. So that was just, I hope that was okay, Lisa. Just, you talked about some things you learned, I mean, without giving any spoilers around what you did, but you said that 9-year time spent on the Druid path, or the OBOD, was maybe life-changing, or what? So what would you like to say about it, or what can you say about it?
Sorry, Mary, I lost you there. Yes, it was life-changing. It took me, this is me personally, obviously this, everybody's journey is different. You have your framework and you hang the colors on of whatever your journey is. But my journey took me to look at myself. My journey took me down ancestors, but it took me to look at myself, because it made me realize that I'd spent a lot of my life behind masks. I'm not going to go into the psychological reasons why that is, but I'd spent a lot of my time behind masks. My work meant I had to do a lot of performing. Even though I was a nurse, I was teaching and I was training. I was trying to move things along, make things happen. So I was always performing at something. I love doing rituals. I love talking on stage. I love doing lots of things. But I always wore this mask, and people would get to know me with the mask on. Yeah. And then I would relax and take the mask off, and it would be like, well, who are you? And I think, I don't know who I am. I've absolutely no idea. And that took me into someplace deep. I did other things as well as I took on board other things as well as the OBOD training. There was a place within the OBOD training that I actually lost everything. I just ended up with a rucksack basically, and just a couple of things. Which was very beneficial on reflection, because if I was unhappy, I would buy things. I didn't even know who I was. So anyway, I ended up with this rucksack.
When you say you ended up just with a rucksack, you mean you lost your home, you lost everything? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I lost everything. Yeah, I did. Wow. I did. For many reasons. A lot of them my own, but I just lost everything, and it was good. I was walking along the streets in it wasn't good at the time. I was walking along the streets in Southampton, and I think I was going to see someone or something, and I just happened to see this Buddhist temple. Just not all sort of glams or anything, but just like a whole bunch of people in there having a chat. And I thought, I'm going to go in and get a cup of tea. I mean, I wasn't homeless because someone had given me somewhere to live, so that was great. So I went in and I got talking, and I ended up going to one of their open sessions, and it was all about desirous attachment. So I don't know if anybody knows about that. It was all about desirous attachment, and that's like, you know, on Lord of the Rings when that little creature has his, he's going, my precious, you know. So that's all about having lots of my precious, and when one my precious runs out, or you don't like it anymore, you chuck it away and you get another one.
Yeah.
And the same with people. You know, you fall in love with somebody, or you think you like somebody, and you know, and then you don't like them because they've got these little faults, and then you really don't like them at all, so you chuck them away and get somebody else. And that's not how it should be. So desirous attachment is when you just like things for a time being, really, to suit you, to make you feel better. But you're not being genuine, you're not really living, you're certainly not living in compassion. And you're not really communicating at all. And so the way I would get around that would be to wear a mask. But when that happened to me, all my masks fell off because I didn't have one. And very good friends of mine challenged me as well, you know, challenged me. And they'd say, you know, I used to say, you know, people say, who are you? I say, oh, I'm a nurse manager, or I do this and I teach. And then who are you? Well, I'm a nurse. I never answered, my name's Gail, and that's who I am, because I'd never been there. For many reasons, I'd never been there, you know, for many reasons. So what happened within the ovate, really, when that happened, and I did sort of go to the Buddhist place, and they were just like, there were some nuns there, but they were pretty cool. And I did learn a lot. And it was like an epiphany going to that desirous attachment thing, because I remember crying and thinking, oh my God, that's me. You know, and I started to try and put things into practice. And the wonderful thing was, it was gelled as well with the ovate journey I was doing. It was gelling with the subjects that I was doing. And I did find that throughout the ovate as well, that many things that weren't part of the ovate journey actually were part of the ovate journey. And that I had to overcome things and learn to be a different way. So I suppose what happened is I learned slowly how to have, because you wear masks when you have no confidence, don't you? I mean, everybody would have thought I was the most confident person in the world, but really raw, out of my shell, I was not. I was just squidgy.
Yeah.
So I learned how to come out and be bits of myself, which was really hard, really hard. And to speak up and to say, you know, if someone says, what do you think? And to suddenly say, well, I don't actually like that. People would go, what do you mean you don't like that? You always like things, you know. So it was finding out who I was. It was very painful. It was very painful, but exceptionally worthwhile. And it started my growth, I suppose. Better late than never, but it did actually start my growth into becoming my authentic self, I suppose.
Yeah.
And if I, you know, maybe I could have done something else, but I can't see any other way for me personally, other than following the OBOD road path, that I could have got where I got. Because I think I would have just continued wearing masks and buying better cars and buying more jewelry and having long nails and doing things that, but I did get this awful, I forget what the word is now. I got this awful, it didn't meet anymore. The way I was being at work, you know, the masks I was wearing and working in nature, and the things I was learning within the ovate and the places I was going, it didn't match. There was a mismatch. I forget the word is now. There was a mismatch going on. Yeah, and there was a great turmoil inside me, because you have to be, it's not about being brave, it's about being courageous, isn't it? It's about having that courage come from the heart to actually do something I'm really frightened about doing or not doing. And I'd never had that before either.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a difference, isn't there, between bravery and courage. So I learned a bit about courage as well.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a tough ride, and I also started just towards the end. Did I start it then? Oh, I might have started in the Druidry. I started doing a 2-year Seeker's Quest course with Steve Hansen, who does all the tarot.
Yes.
A Seeker's Quest course on the Major Arcana, and boy, that opens up stuff as well.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you get to meet each of the Major Arcanas personally and work with them. I work with them for more than a month each, but work with them and find out things. So I combined things. I suppose also at that time I learned about stillness. Started to learn about being in the now. I didn't do mindfulness or anything like that, you know, nothing with the title, which is, you know, but I learned about being in the now, and I learned about sit, the importance of sit, and just being there and being with your body and being with what's all around you, and not waiting for, oh, I wish I'd done this, or I'm going to do this now. Oh, I'll be happy when I do this. You know, I know that's the in word now, but I'll be happy when I do this. Or when I buy this, I'll be happy. I tried to stop doing that, and I think I succeeded. I started to succeed. So I started to change the way I played the game, really. And as I changed the way I played the game, other things changed at the same time. But I actually don't think I did the OBOD for about 2 years. I didn't write to my mentor for 2 years, I don't think, but I was still doing things, but encompassing other things. So it was sort of a weave. It was a weave. I like to think that my weave was getting stronger. You know, my warp threads were getting stronger, and I was weaving in different colors into the weft. Yeah, it was a hard time. I can't say it wasn't. It was a hard time.
There's lots of response here. Just read some comments that I think lots of resonances. That's very interesting. Many people wear a mask, this is from Philippa, and then wonder why they're not treated the way they wish for by those they care about. And then Hannah says sometimes it takes something drastic to happen to move forward. And she said she too struggles with knowing who she is. And then Anne says, yes, and often accompanied by great suffering that teaches. And sometimes we need some big wake-up call. And I mean, I think you certainly, I mean, to have lost everything and to be reduced to a rucksack.
But I had a little bit more than that, but not much.
Yes. Okay. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That what a great teacher. And but there must have been something in you that, you know, great resilience and maybe prior unknown resources to be able to come through that and not crash with it, to come to, you know, to journey through it and not just break down. I permanently. You may have had a breakdown, I don't know, but that you actually
I didn't. No.
that you still did it. You survived it.
I think I had to keep working, and I was working full time, so I had to keep working. So it was almost as if there were like two of me. You know, I had to keep working. Work didn't really know. There's only a couple of people knew. So that sort of helped me through, because when you're because I was actually nursing then, I was doing face to face. So you forget about yourself when you're doing face to face. And so that sort of kept me going, and the kindness of people, you know, the kindness of some people. But you know, it's I am pleased it happened. I am I have, you know, I can't say I'm not pleased it happened. I'm pleased it happened. It's sort of like that tower card in the tarot, that you get these little knocks, don't you? Excuse me, are you listening? Excuse me, right, you're not listening, so here goes a tower. So live with it now. Go find your star. So I sort of found my star, bits and bobs of a star. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's all right.
You were told a mask. Zane says, sometimes I find that certain circumstances force me to put on a mask, such as the culture at the workplace. It's painful to do it, but it feels like a matter of survival. And I would agree. And I think we do wear a mask. We need to have some kind of defense.
Yeah.
It's when you've got layers and layers and layers, and that the real you never comes out, and that it becomes something rock solid.
Yeah.
That's when there's the problem.
I think also if you wear a mask and you use it to control other people or to glamour other people, which I'm going to say I was guilty of, it doesn't work out well, because then when you try and relax and take the mask off, as I was saying before, people go, well, who are you then? I don't know who you are. So you can never really be yourself. Glamoring does not work.
No, it doesn't. And people are very disappointed when they see when the glamour dims. It's like, well, I thought you were really something else, and that's not fair. I don't want to see the other person.
Exactly.
So Jackie says, nurses always keep going. My wonderful team of nurses forget it. Well, she hasn't finished it. But I know that, because I know in my own training as a nurse, and I see it with my sister who's a nurse, is that you keep going. And I think in many ways, yes, you were fortunate that you did have that big wake-up call, so that you could change that, rather than continuing with the way you were going.
Yeah.
Well,
I suppose so. The ovate was 9 years, and the druid was nearly 5. And I retired about a year and a half ago, probably, about a year and a half ago now from the NHS. Actually, it's probably more, coming up to 2 years now. But you know, that process of losing the mask was ongoing, and I just felt like if I lose it completely, I'll lose who I am. I won't know who I am. Will I be any use? You know, and combining that with the fact that I was probably I was over retirement age, but you know, I could have retired, but I didn't want to, because I thought, oh, if I retire and I've got no mask, I might as well just not bother. But I had a wonderful experience when I was, you know, I left the druid grade and then left the druid path and went on to the druid. Went the ovate path, went on to the druid path, and I had a wonderful experience when I was there. I booked for my partner, for my husband, to go on. We went to Wales, stayed in Wales, because we're always looking at sacred sites, and I booked for him to go on one of these zip wire rides. You know?
Oh yes, I love
down the quarries. Yeah. Well, I was frightened of heights, because I only started to fly a few years ago, because I was worried of being up high. But anyway, so at the very last moment, I booked myself on this zip wire. I thought, oh, I'm going to go as well. I don't care anymore, because obviously I was feeling more courageous. And so I went on the zip wire, and that was life-changing as well, because I got on the zip wire way up in Wales, way in the mountains, and there were 3 lines to go down, and I was absolutely terrified. Anyway, I got on and off I went, and it was so exhilarating. It was just wonderful, and I saw the earth pass before me, and everything whizzing past me, and I thought, I was going to swear there. I was going to say, what the hell am I doing this job for? Why am I wasting my life wearing masks, being nice when people are not really being nice to patients, but I've got to say, oh yes, they are being nice. Why am I living my life like this when I could be just riding on this zip wire? So I went bang, bang, bang down the zip wire, got off, and said, right, I'm giving up my job. And I quit my job. That is how I retired. I just thought, sod it, I'm not doing it anymore. So it was the wonderful mountains, up Snowdon and up that way. Oh, it was wonderful. But what an exhilarating experience. I had no idea that was going to happen. And I'm so pleased that I got the courage from somewhere to actually do the ride, because I left. Well, I went back part-time for a couple of days a week just to help out for about 6 months. But I did leave. I'd stopped being a manager. I went back to being a nurse and met some wonderful people, patients at last instead of people who were angry. And it was fantastic. So yeah, that was good. And that coincided with that coincided with me doing the Seeker's Quest, because I was studying the devil card at the time. And of course, the devil, you're chained to the devil, but actually you're chained to the devil by yourself, aren't you? Devil doesn't chain you. It's your own bonds that you do yourself. And when I came off at Zipwire, I thought, all right, I'm free. I'm not bonded anymore. Goodbye. And that's it. And wonderful. I read up about the devil card. And I thought, well, there you go then. So that was brilliant.
I think standing, I love Zipwires. And I mean, it's always, yeah, I do. Because you're standing there and it's like, oh, because you can see, oh, we have to go miles down there someplace.
Yeah.
But that moment, and you see when other people are nervous. I used to be terrified of heights too, and I managed to cure myself of it years and years and years ago. That's why I now like, I can do zip wires. But that you're standing there, and then there's the moment, okay, I am now ready to jump. And it's trusting, it's the letting go, and then the huge freedom that you are just flying through the air and you're on top of the world. It is just an amazing experience.
It is.
It's just, and I can see, I can really understand how that letting go, all that processing went on in that journey, and yet how fortunate you were to have the opportunity to do it.
Absolutely. And it also got me to reflect as well afterwards that I didn't think I was fearful of anything, but actually I was fearful of almost everything. I was fearful of many, many, many things. And that's why I wore the mask. So it was fear. It was fear. It was fear of people not liking me, fear of not doing the right thing. I think it was fear of not being liked, really. Fear of not... it was fear of not being liked. I can actually say that now, of somebody saying, oh, I don't like you very much. Whereas now, anyway, that's another story. But it was absolutely fantastic. But I realized how fearful I'd been. So I hadn't been a great manager, a great, speaker, a great this. I'd done it with fear, and I suffered from it because I had high blood pressure. Which I don't have now. So.
Oh, wonderful. So Marcus, who was a guest a few months back, he says there is great strength and courage in enabling our true selves to emerge. Thus becoming vulnerable shows strength. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree, Marcus. That's right.
That's a wonderful story.
And then I went on from, so the Druid, I sort of finished that. When did I finish it? I actually only finished it last year. Well, I finished it before last year, but I hadn't written what you have to write for about nearly a year. I hadn't quite finished it, basically. Let's put it that way. But when I did, and I reflected on my journey, it was amazing, and I realized what a good journey.
Lovely.
What a good journey. What a good journey. And then I was very, I've got this little thing. I think this is probably, I'm trying not to make a noise. There was just this saying, and I don't know where it came from, but it means something to me. It says, and every day the world would drag you by the hand yelling, this is important, and this is important, and this is important. You need to worry about this and this and that. And each day, it's up to you to yank your hand back, put it on your heart and say, no, this is what's important.
Wonderful.
So, yeah, don't know where it's from, but anyway. And then I've become very privileged now to actually become an OBOD mentor, and I'm getting such great joy out of students who write to me. I'm absolutely amazed, and I'm seriously humbled by what they say, because it's just wonderful. It's just wonderful. And to be let into other people's experiences is a true honor, and I love it. I love it. And now that I'm not working as well, now that I'm not working for the NHS, I am able to spend more time doing things like that, talking to students and walking behind them or beside them. Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Great.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah, I do. Just see what's here. So I suppose as well as finishing my finishing the Druid course as well, and doing my Seeker's Quest in Tarot. Once I'd given up my work in the NHS, I started doing loads and loads of things. I did. I went on to Philip Cargom's site, The Art of Living Well, and I did the Transformation Through Tarot, which is absolutely brilliant, and added even more information to me about myself on top of the Seeker's Quest. I started again, because I'd done it way in the past. I started practicing Tai Chi and Qigong again for moving meditation and to keep myself strong and well. And I became fitter and lost weight, and my body was getting better. So I was pleased about that. I also started doing Nordic walking, which is a bit of a laugh.
With the 2 sticks.
That's with the poles. Boy, can you walk a long way with Nordic poles. So that's quite good fun. And obviously having the the New Forest to practice that walking in is just wonderful, because you've got your heathland, you stay out the boggy land as well, beautiful trees, got all the animals as well. It's so wonderful. So I went on and did the Art of Living Well, did the Transformation Through Tarot, and then I did the course, The Garden of Flowing in Perpetual Happiness. I had to look at that because it's quite long-winded, and I learned about yoga nidra and deep relaxation and visualization. And then finally I went on and signed up to do the sophrology, the first lot of sophrology, and learned about dynamic relaxation. I got to know my body more.
Great.
I got able to isolate my body parts, which came in handy, and I'll tell you about in a minute. Body scan, belly breathing. I learned all about neuroplasticity.
Yes.
And that's cool. So that if you keep practicing something, actually it becomes, doesn't it? So so I do have a practice almost every morning, depending on what I'm doing. I learned how to stay in the present, to greet each happening as something new. So what I always used to do before, when I was wearing the mask, was worry about the past, get annoyed about it, and think, and then worry about the future. But I never lived in the now. So I missed everything. Everything. And that's something else, I suppose I'd say, that Druidry helped me as well, through the 3 paths, that it got me to look at things. It got me to do experiential things, because it's not just about reading the lessons in the book. It's about hanging your own colors on the framework, and it's the experiential knowledge, because it's so personal and everybody is different. Sorry, I digress there. So, and it sort of helped me to find joy. So going back to sophrology. So I was doing all these things and everything was great. And I started, because I've been a complementary therapist as well. And so I'd started a small business and was doing reflexology in nursing homes and people's homes. And I did some online and stuff like that. And it was great. Everything was brilliant. I know we had lockdown and everything, but it was all right. And I think I'll just read a poem before I say anything else. Is that all right?
Okay.
Do you mind? Do you mind?
Absolutely not. And I want to come back to the question. A woman has asked it twice, but you read the point first.
Oh, I'm so sorry. No, I'll answer that.
Okay. It's from Cynthia, still asking if there's something you practice in Druidcraft you will not mingle with old or traditional craft. I'm not sure.
I think I will say that the type of Druidcraft that I practice is the type that you'll find within Philip Gomm's book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I would refer you to that, really. I think with everything, with craft, everyone has their own way. It depends what system they came up through. I came up through an initiatory system, so mine was very, very strict. So I probably won't be able to answer that question, to be honest. Yeah. I think what I would have to do is refer you to the book Druidcraft. It's on audio as well, and it is nice to listen to. I'm not trying to sell it. I just think it's really good.
Thank you for that.
Oh,
okay,
sorry.
so your poem.
Yeah, so when I was in the OBOD grade, I wrote 2 poems just about birds, and I thought I'd just read them to you. And it is about seeing things differently, not just seeing the mundane. So this one is Lunchtime Bliss, and I wrote this when I was on a motorway going between one client and another client. And I just stopped at Sainsbury's, and I was going to go in and buy some ritzy jewelry or a sandwich or makeup or something, as well as food. But I didn't. I just bought a sandwich and came back and sat in my car because I thought maybe it's time to relax. So this is what transpired. It's called Lunchtime Bliss. Robin, in the sheltered glade at a busy Sainsbury's car park, sits in the crook of a slender staff-like sapling tree, surveying his domain. I catch him in the corner of my eye, and to my delight, he sits there for a while, allowing me to leave the world of work and shift my awareness to enter his oasis of nature with all its leafy greens and sun-speckled hues. 10 minutes before, I was motorway driving, but now I'm somewhere else. I feel the green fire filling me, and there's nothing really needed but to smile. This is better than an expensive face cream. My lines just melt away in peace. Could I be any more blessed? What joys a mundane lunchtime brings when we have druid eyes.
Oh, it's beautiful. Beautiful.
Sorry.
Thank you so much. That's lovely.
And there is one more about a bird. Shall I read the other one? This is about this time of year. So this was just sitting having fish and chips somewhere and talking about how awful the weather is and stuff like that. I just saw this cormorant. So just before sunset, a cormorant stands on a post at the shoreline, casting a black silhouette against the inky December sea. As the last hint of pink fades from the sky, icy rain begins to fall on feathers, but just as quickly is beaten off with flapping wings and shake of determined head. We of skin huddle inside our metal machines like winkles in a shell as the dark clouds gather. Better go, we say, before the storm sets in, and we of neither fur nor feather scurry quickly away to our retreats. The black sea swells and the rain increases as the slender, steadfast creature takes his position, takes his stand with determined gaze and willful intent at the very edge of earth, sea, and sky, with head and neck outstretched and glistening wings spread wide. He greets the elements as his equal, absorbing their power deep within before plunging into the ocean's swell to merge with the ebb and flow of winter's tide.
Beautiful.
That's my second bird.
it's a very powerful image of him braving the storm, and we of neither fur nor feather, you know, can do that. We take shelter within. It's really interesting.
We do. And I suppose that's something that comes out as well when you're walking the Druid path, is that you, as I say, you see things in the now. You see things that are happening, and you're able to engage in I don't know, an energetic way, or a heart way, just another being way, and you're able to pick up on their energies and transform what you see and what you hear into words. I suppose it's not quite phenomenology, but it's a bit like it. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
So Gavin has a question. What's an initiatory system?
Sorry?
You said you came from an initiatory.
Okay. Initiatory system is it's going to be from Gerald Gardner, or it's going to be from Alex Saunders. So Alexandrian Wicca. Mine was a bit of a mishmash. It was from Alexandrian, but it was also Ferrarian as well. Janet Farrar?
Yeah.
So it was all mixed up in there. So the initiatory system is, you have 3 degrees, first, second, and third, as we seem to have in all things magical. First, second, and third. And once you attain your 3rd degree, which should take quite a while, really. Each degree should take at least a year and a day, if not a lot longer, not just bim bam bosh. Because if you're working the art magical, you should know what you're doing. You should. Oh gosh, I can't think what I was going to say there. I can't remember that. I can't pronounce her name. Is it Jolene? The lady from Germany who teaches the laws of magic.
I don't know. Somebody here?
No, I can't think who she was. She said hello anyway. She said hello. So sort of in the laws of magic, you should really know what you're doing. So initiatory is 1st, 2nd, and 3rd degree, and a male is initiated by a female, and a female is initiated by a male. And it's taken very seriously, and there are tools of magic and there are laws of magic, and you should not impress the foolish or impress or hold down the weak or anything like that. You should live honorably. It wasn't connected to Aleister Crowley at all. It was purely from Alexandrian or Gardnerian. So it's Alexandrian. Yeah. I learnt a lot. I also learnt there's a lot of prejudice as well.
How do you mean?
I was told that I was told that I could not be a Wiccan and a Druid, and I said, okay, bye, and that was that. And I had a coven at the time, so that wasn't really the dumb thing to do. But there we are.
Well, as a Druid, you can be a Wiccan, or as a Druid, you can be whatever, and that's what's lovely.
You can be whatever. Absolutely, absolutely. Or all absolutely, because it works with anything. The way of Druidry works with anything. I mean, I have a degree of the way of Buddhism within me. The way of the Buddha within me. I learned so much there. Martial arts as well. Craft. Wicca. Some people I've known are absolutely not people. Some ways I've known suit me well. Some ways I think I don't think so. I think I prefer to, maybe go to church. having been a Catholic before, I can say that. So there we go. But there's nothing wrong with that either. Catholic Church is absolutely beautiful, especially midnight mass. Whatever. If it's love and if it's compassion, and if it's not, hurting anyone or trying to change other people, yeah. Okay.
Thank you. And Gabrielle says it feels like you've been through so much, as in a very intense thumping journey, and you certainly have. You've been through more as well.
Yeah. I was going to say, yeah. I was just, I was chilling along, doing my thing. Was doing all these courses. I was just about to do a course on soul midwifery as well. So to do with palliative care, because I had volunteered at a hospice, a palliative care, and I was doing complementary therapies there as well on a voluntary basis. And I just happened to have a call up for a mammogram this year in April. And I thought, why have I got a call up for that? I'm past the age for having a call up. And I don't know why I had a call up either. But I'm very glad I did, because I was diagnosed with breast cancer in April this year, in June. And yes, that was a bit of a kick in the teeth, really, because, I was overweight. I was over 60. I had been on HRT for 14 years until I was about 61. So there were some predisposing factors, I suppose. There was no cancer in my family. But there you go. And yeah, I went along to the mammogram, and then in June this year, I had a small resection in my left breast. I was very, very lucky that it was in one place. It wasn't in my axilla, but I did have some axilla tissue taken out. And then I had to wait for see if I needed chemotherapy. So they sent a sample off to America, and that was a very hard time for me, very hard time, because I didn't want it. I did not want it, no matter what. But I signed to say I'd have it. Anyway, it came back. I didn't have to have it. And then I went through radiation, and luckily they only do 5 days in Southampton now. They used to do loads of weeks, didn't they? So they do a fast one now, 5 days. I was quite terrified of that. I was terrified to have the surgery, because I'd had surgery in the past, and I'd stopped breathing, and it was all quite terrifying. And now I'm okay, and I've started on some strange hormone tablets. So we'll see how that goes. But what I wanted to say is that before I was diagnosed in this is on reflection. Before I was diagnosed in I was diagnosed in May, actually. Before I was diagnosed in May, they were very good when they did the scan, because I said I was a nurse. I said, look, can you just tell me, please, because I'd like to know. And the lady said, well, I've seen thousands of these, and you've definitely got a tumor. And I went, thank you very much. So that was good. It was very honest from the beginning. But in October last year and November last year, because I like to do creative writing. I do something called daily notes, daily writing, just to sort of get stuff out. I've been writing some quite dark things. I've been writing some very dark things, and I wanted to get rid of all my stuff, and it was just a bit strange. I thought, oh well, it's probably because of lockdown, and and blah 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 and everything. And I was doing all these courses, as I say, and then this happened, and I thought, oh, okay, that's what it is, because it felt like that's what it was. It wasn't, oh my God, it's terrible, it's a shock. I didn't think it was going to happen. It was like, oh, okay, that's what it was. Because I had this feeling of foreboding since October last year. And as I said, my writing was quite dark. My writing was quite dark. Yeah. But I'm going to have to say that all those courses I did, especially the sophrology and the Seeker's Quest as well, with the tarot, but especially the sophrology, helped me so much through this journey that I've just gone through. If that's what you can call it. Experience. I'm going to call it journey. Experience that I've just gone through. Through doing the sophrology, I was able to isolate parts of my body in my mind, because I'd been doing the practice for about 5 or 6 months. So
Okay.
when they wanted to stick a wire in my boob, which they didn't do in the end, but they did something else instead, I was able to isolate that part of my body quite naturally. I was able to do deep breathing.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to do the zones in my body because I'd been practicing it. I was able to just focus on the now and just be in that moment and not be before and not be what's going to happen in the future. I'm not going to say that that didn't come to mind, especially it came to mind when they were going to offer me chemotherapy, because I didn't want that. And I thought, that will kill me. I think it will. And I'm sorry if anybody's going to have it. One of my friends is actually having chemotherapy at the moment, and she's fine. But for me, I thought, well, because I'm 71. I thought, I'm 71. I don't actually fancy chemotherapy, but luckily I didn't have to have it. But the Druid training, sorry, Eimear, you right?
No, go on. Yeah.
The Druid training, the tarot training, the art of living well, the sophrology, also yoga nidra from the garden of, I can never pronounce this, sorry.
Perpetual happiness.
Yeah, the garden of flowing perpetual happiness, yeah. The yoga nidra from that. I was able to use all these resources to keep myself in one place and keep myself balanced. And I just don't think at all that I could have just coped. I couldn't have coped if I didn't have all those resources from sophrology. And I was sitting there and I was sitting there in the clinic waiting to see the oncologist who was going to tell me about my radiotherapy treatment, which I also didn't want because I thought they might burn my heart out or something, which they didn't do. But you don't know. And I thought, I want to say a prayer, but what am I going to say? I don't know. And then I thought, I'm going to say the Druids. I'm going to think the Druids' prayer. So I started to think the Druids' prayer through. But it didn't come out like, oh, help me, help me, help me. It came out sort of like an instruction on how to get myself even more balanced, if that's possible. Because grant, O Spirit, thy protection, and in protection strength. I mean, I did want a mate. I did want a friend when I was sitting there. So I thought, well, Spirit would be nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Spirit would be nice. And in protection strength. And the strength that came to me was about being in the now, was to follow the sophrology practice that I'd learnt and kept myself in the now. And I didn't deviate out of the now. And a couple of the people I saw, clinicians, said, how come you're so calm? I said, I don't know. I just am. And I wasn't in denial either. It was a true calm. So grant, O Spirit, thy protection, in protection strength, and strength understanding. And the understanding for me was nothing is permanent. Everything changes. I'm an animal like every other animal. I'm a living being. Why shouldn't I have cancer in part of my body? You know, it's part of me. It's my cells proliferating for whatever reason. I have done a lot of interesting information, I think, I've done a lot of reading about how cells might change. And I think that's quite interesting. But, and in strength understanding and in understanding knowledge, and that sort of loops back on itself, the knowledge of self, the knowledge of how courageous you can be. Where is your courage? Where does your courage lie? The knowledge of who you are. Boy, I'm glad I wasn't wearing a mask at that time.
Yes.
Because I'd skipped the last mammogram I was ever going to have, which was 3 years before. I'd skipped that, and I think they thought it was probably there then, even though it was small. Now, if I'd have gone then, even though I was not bad, I don't think I could have coped. I think I would have just gone. I just imploded, I think. So, and in knowledge, the knowledge of justice. Well, as I say, there is no justice. It's not about justice. It's about, I was going to say shit happens. It's just stuff happens. You know, I drive down the road and I see squirrels that have done the leap of faith between the trees and they've hit the tarmac. And I think that is so bad. And life is not always.
That's right.
Life is hard, isn't it? Life is hard. Life can be hard, but we're part of nature. So why would we be any different?
Yeah.
And in the knowledge of justice, the love of it. I always think of the justice card with this, an old tarot, a new tarot-looking card, and the justice person is sitting on a stone platform that's floating in the sea, and there's a cat as well floating past. And it's about that justice doesn't stay the same. You know, it might tilt off this way, and then you've got to tilt back this way. You can't say, well, this is how it's going to be, you know. I just got to go with the flow and trust, because I've got spirit who's given me a bit of protection, hopefully, and give me some cool people who are going to look after me, which I did have. And the love of all existences, and that's remembering that the compassion, that whatever I'm feeling, whatever I'm going through, whatever has happened to me is downright going to be happening to somebody else. Absolutely. So to have not in a gooey way, but to have that compassion inside you for other people, and say, yeah, I feel terrible. I feel like this, but you feel like this too. And we both feel this way because we're human beings. We're human beings together. And that helps, because I think for me personally, compassion, I don't mean sympathy.
Yeah.
I mean compassion. So thinking that what you're feeling, everyone else can feel. All other human beings can feel as well. And that sort of opens it up away from yourself as well. It takes it off yourself. It takes it out into the universe, out into the world, because everyone can feel the same way. And then that love starts to flow and starts to grow, and you think, oh God, I'm not the only one, you know. And then the love of all existences, which is the compassion, the love of spirit and all goodness, and it comes full circle. So I found my own meaning within the Druid's prayer that we say. And I did chant it. I didn't sit there and chant it out loud, but I said it to myself, and it made sense, and it was helpful, and it was a soft cushion. It was helpful. But so put them all together, put that together, and the Seeker's Quest and sophrology and all the other bits. Maybe I was just doing all that because I was about to get breast cancer and I needed to get myself through. I don't know. But it worked. And now it's sort of, well, don't know. Go back and see somebody in a year's time. Who knows? There are many people who haven't made 71 years old, aren't they? Who've had breast cancer and all sorts of cancers and all sorts of illnesses and everything. So we're all just humans doing the best we can, really.
Wow. I'm just blown away by your story. Jules asks, do you think expressing those dark thoughts through writing helped you or hindered you moving forward?
I use creative writing to bring things out. I tend to do it first thing in the morning when I wake up. I try not to do it late at night because then they're really dark. It helps me. Because I'm not doing it I'm not crying when I'm doing it. I'm not doing it out of fear. I'm just sort of vomiting up on a piece of paper what I feel inside. And then I can go back and read and reflect on it as well, and look at where I've been and where I've come from. So no, it doesn't hurt me, no. What I can't do is when people do dream diaries, I absolutely can't do that. That freaks me out. I cannot do dream diaries. That haunts my mind. So that's what I can't do.
You mean you can't record a dream?
I can record a dream, but once I record a dream, I feel, why am I recording a dream? This is very strange. Why would I do that? And so I don't like doing it.
And I mean, some people, I know I have friends who do that, you know, have a different writing for the day journal
Yeah.
and then the dream journal. It's not for everybody, but this is what's lovely about Druidry, is that you have a whole menu
Exactly.
from which to choose that fits with you. I mean, some people are writers and others are not, or whatever it is, you know, that you're an absolute inspiration. Gabriella says, Anita Morjani speaks about going through cancer and how she recommends anyone to do whatever they feel makes step into calm and joy and step out of fear. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. I went on I went on a site where we shared things. I was invited to go on a site. I found it difficult to share anything.
Yeah.
And I felt really, I felt that people had nobody. They had nothing. I mean, I know I'm making a big judgment here, but they had nothing. They had no, I don't know. They just had nothing to pull on from themselves. And it was horrible. It was really horrible. And all you can do is wish people well. So I didn't go back on the site. Because I felt if I said all this stuff I've just said to you, they'd probably go, well, great for you then. So I thought that's probably not a good idea. Yeah.
I think it's I find it sad when people haven't got those resources. I remember as a nurse, this is now in the last century. Now I was a student nurse, so I didn't work long after I qualified. Then I shifted careers, but that you didn't tell people they had cancer. So it was interesting, you know, you were able to say, I'm a nurse, can you just let me know? Where no, you were never allowed. And often don't tell them it was an assumption. If they weren't well educated, they wouldn't be emotionally able to deal with it, assuming that education could help you manage it, which is not true. And then others, I don't want my family to be upset, and don't tell them. And it was really, really difficult. So then everybody's pussyfooting around the dying person and everybody afraid to say anything, when having it open and then you having those resources and being able to draw on and share them, you know, you're very, very lucky. And it's a pity for many who can't go there. I think that's very, very unfortunate. And the thing is, it's about being prepared. So you had done all of this before you got your diagnosis.
Amazing.
Rather than rambling, I've got cancer now. Let me learn something. It's around being prepared for and using these. They're not just for cancer, but that you have that.
I think for me, the biggest thing is to live in the now. And whether I had diagnosed with cancer or not, that's been the biggest thing in my life, is to learn to live in the now, because you don't miss anything. You see the plants, you see the trees, you see the expression on people's faces, you understand what they're saying, because you see them. So there's hopefully no communication problems there. I think it really does help you live in more joy. But you know, people have got to want to do that. Really, I've talked to I better not say who I've talked to, but I've talked to a younger woman, and she hasn't got time to do that, and probably doesn't even understand what I'm talking about. But then saying that, neither did I. If somebody told me that when I was in my 30s, I'd have gone, yeah, okay, thanks for the unicorns and the clowns, bye. So I wouldn't have listened either. Yeah.
You know, it's about your time. You know, when you're ready to hear it, you will. And everyone's journey is different. Anne says, openness and compassion around approaching death was such a relief, giving people a chance to process what is happening and support each other. Absolutely.
Exactly. I mean, that was, I mean, I haven't done it, but that's what I was going to study for soul midwifery, which is a lay person. I'm sure people know, helping people to die in the way that they want to die. But I didn't do that course, not yet. maybe I will. But yeah, maybe I will. But yeah. And it, you know, we come into the world, we go out of the world. It's the cycles, isn't it? It's the, you know, life, death, rebirth cycles. Why would we be any different? You know,
I know.
We're part of everything. Why would we be any different? And I suppose the only thing, well, I suppose what people can do is if they, you know, if they maybe try living in compassion, which is really hard to begin with, especially if you don't like somebody, you can't be compassionate with them. But to live in compassion if you can, and to live in the now, then you're going to experience everything that happens. You're not going to miss anything, and you're not going to get to the end and go, oh God, I wish I had, you know, because you're going to do the best that you've done, really.
That's
you know,
right.
I mean, you know, as far as I know, I'm going to go on and live to be 106. I hope that's my plan, to annoy people and to keep doing that. So yeah, I do have one more poem if you can stand it.
No, absolutely. And people, there were lots of comments to your other ones. Yes.
Because I don't know if are we coming up to time or not yet?
This is all about you, Gail. So
I'll leave that poem till the end because it's to do with the full moon. But yeah, so yeah, I'd have to say that my journey from I mean, I first got into Wicca by I was running a nursing home for Bupa because I left the NHS for a while, and this lady came in and said, "Can I do some Reiki?" I went, "I'm sorry, what is that?" She said, "Can I do some Reiki?" She meant Reiki on my father. I went, "Yes, if you want. What is it?" And she told me what it is, and then I found out about Reiki and studied that, and for about 2 years, and got into all sorts of things, looking at the feminine side because I'd never looked at my feminine side. That's you know, that's something else as well, and that's how I met someone who was doing the Wicca. So that's basically how I got into the Wicca as well. So and before then I'd become a Catholic, so my children could go to a Catholic school.
Okay, so you weren't brought up a Catholic?
No. My parents were Church of England, I think, to begin with. Then we lived in Canada because I grew up in Canada. I went there when I was 5 and left there when I was 16. So I grew up in Canada. I'm doing the end of my story, the beginning of my story at the end now. But I grew up in Canada in La Belle Province du Québec. Grew up on the Ottawa River. I had a house on the Ottawa River. So it was absolutely wonderful. And my mother became a Mormon because the Mormon missionaries were coming around. So we all became Mormons. I've been baptized in Salt Lake City in the temple. And I did Mormon stuff for quite a while, which was interesting. I'm not going to say why I didn't like it because it might offend people. So I'm not going to say that. But it was okay. The Mormon missionaries were quite fit. I enjoyed them because I was only a teenager, rather like them. And I went to visit all around America and stuff like that. And then we came to England when I was 16 and a half, 17. I didn't realize we were going to stay. So there we are. But I was born in Eastbourne in Sussex, a really good place in Sussex. So I'm back in my own country now. Wow. But I was terribly homesick for Canada for a very long time. Yeah, I was. And I've got I think one student who writes to me is from Canada, maybe a couple, and we have had a bit of a chat, so that's lovely.
And we have a few from David Tomes from Ontario. We have a few Canadians on tonight.
Yeah, I do love Canada. I must admit, when I go to I have been back. I went back about 4 years ago, I think, for a flying visit, but we didn't get to stay where we didn't get to go where I lived. But I do love Canada. When I go to Scotland or when I go to Wales, I feel like I'm going to Canada. So that's probably why I like it. And Ireland as well. West Ireland. I love Western Ireland. Connemara and all around there.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. And so are you a fluent French speaker?
No, that was just showing off. I'm not really, no. No, I can speak a little bit, yeah. I suppose if I got with some people, I might be able to. But Quebecois seems to be different to French speaking. Yeah. But yeah, it was. I had an idyllic childhood. I grew up, say, on the Ottawa River, swimming in the river with the boats. Yeah, it was great. Woods. Yeah, fantastic.
Beautiful.
Moose, deer. Yeah, we had a tree in the bottom of the garden that did maple syrup, and we used to tap that and throw it on the snow. So I mean, I had a wonderful childhood. I hated England when I came here. It was like fairy dust. Everything had shrunk. Everything was so small. But I don't know. I love England. Yeah, I love the New Forest.
Absolutely. I'm just curious, why did you want to send your children to a Catholic school, given your Church of England, Mormon, all around you've been around when it comes to different religions?
I wanted to send them to a Catholic school because that was the best school in the area.
Okay.
And they got in, so they became Catholic. They were baptized, yeah. With some lovely sisters who did their training in their own house. And the father who was in charge of the church was just wonderful. I'm sure he was Druid. He had a huge cauldron that he would light in the church, and everyone would have candles. And he used to wear green socks, and he used to have guitars, and he always went to Connemara for holidays with the lady who he lived with, who his housekeeper. And and he was absolutely lovely. He was so lovely, and he was lovely. And when I had my whatever you do, I don't know, whatever they do, is it confirmation?
Yeah.
Whatever. I've had so many baptisms and confirmations. It's like that guy who has all those medals around his neck in The Mummy or something. It was this big cauldron, and it was fantastic. I thought, well, this is pretty pagan. I like this. This is wonderful.
Wow.
So, because I was studying craft at the time, you see. Anyway.
Wow. So here you were converting to Catholicism while studying the craft.
Absolutely. Because there are some similarities.
Wow.
I think.
That's really interesting. And was this priest Irish?
Yes, he was. He was indeed. He was. Wow. Father Paul. He was really lovely. Unfortunately, he died quite quickly, but he was such a nice man. And he said to me, which is true, he said to me, because my first name is Catherine, he said, Catherine, you must learn patience. And he was so right. He was so right. But yeah, and we went on retreats and into the forest on retreats, all sorts of weird things. It was great. He wasn't your usual priest.
No, absolutely not.
When he died, I didn't go anymore. So yeah.
Oh, it's an absolutely wonderful journey you've had. Absolutely. What have you any regrets?
I do. The regrets I have would be not being true to myself and making wrong decisions that have impacted on other people. Definitely. Mm-hmm. I mean, I do have regrets from when I was very young, but I don't think that's anything I could have done about that, really, because that's just was the circumstances. But yeah, my regrets are when I've made decisions that have impacted on other people that have maybe not been very kind. Yeah. Oh, and probably, and also taking HRT. No, that's not true. Also taking HRT and getting too fat. But then there you go.
Was that one of the side effects for you?
Well, one of the side effects of HRT is can be breast cancer. Yeah, which I didn't know.
Okay.
Which I didn't know, or I probably did know, but didn't think anything about it. But I'm okay where I am, so that's fine. But on a serious note, if I have any regrets, yes, I do. The regret I have is throwing myself into a full-time job when my children were very little. But then I didn't know any different at the time. I wish I'd maybe just worked part-time and had some more time with my children. Yeah, my son and daughter. But saying that now, you know, my daughter is a wonderful mother and spends so much time with her boys, and you know, my son does very, very well with his children as well. So, but yeah, on retrospect, I wouldn't have done that because I was chasing nothing. As it turns out, nothing at all. I was chasing nothing, and I would have had more time with my partner. I would have had more time with my children, but I was chasing the I don't know, just to be liked, I suppose, in a job, because my world in my job was different to my world when I was at home. Absolutely, totally different.
It's really interesting because I remember in school, you know, we were all going to go to university and you were going to get a career until you got married. And my mother always said it's important to have a career just in case.
Yeah.
So, and my father died when she was 47, and she had been a nurse. So the just in case was really useful. So then she did reflexology and chiropody. But I was never going to have children, and I wanted the career, and that was really important. So I left nursing and went into psychology and set up my own practice, and I did corporate work, and that was really important. And then I met Howard, my second husband, who was a consultant psychiatrist, and he talked about the tyranny of career. You know, when you said you were chasing nothing. So he and his first wife got married when they were very young, had children, twins at 23, and he was all his memberships and going around from hospital to hospital, living in a hospital accommodation, working 120 hours, work. And then he set up in general practice for 17 years and then left that and went into psychiatry. And then he became a consultant, you know, at the top of his game, and he realized, for what? So then, you know, I had 2 children, and he said he was going to work part-time. We both agreed to work part-time so we could, the children would always have a parent with them. And he said that gave him far more. And then we home educated our kids, and then he retired early. So he was a full-time home person, cooked and did dry stone walls, wrote poetry and baked bread and all of that. And he got so much more out of that, which, you know, society doesn't value that, and mostly it's women who do that. That's not valued. And for him, he had a second chance having, you know, with his second children, he had 7 in total. Our 2 got way more from him than his first one, because he was doing the traditional father, husband, breadwinner type thing. And it was just struck me, and because I was, no, my career is really important. And he goes, it's a tyranny, Eimear. And actually, I agree. But then luckily, I was, you know, I'm my own boss, and I didn't go into our NHS, the HSE. I think that would have destroyed my soul.
Right.
But it really, really interesting that I went through that phase of trying to be Superwoman, and then I stopped. And it was he who helped me do that. It's like, so I could pull back, work part-time and be with kids. But it was just when you said that, chasing nothing. And I think for so many people who have careers, and this would have been, I suppose, typical of men in the past who had careers and then retired at 65 and then are dead within a few months because their identity is tied up with their career and the mask they wear. And who am I? Is that I am the CEO, the MD, or whatever it is. And then afterwards, it's like, well, I'm nothing. And it's about discovering who you are.
It is.
And so that when you retire from that job, your identity isn't shattered, because we've many selves, and there are many things we do, and many, many interests. It's about nurturing those all from an earlier stage, and continuing to have a busy life. And I know so many people who have retired now, and they say, I'm busier now than I ever was. How come how did I have time to do a job? And that's about living fully, and whatever it is, and finding meaning.
It is, Eimear. And yeah, it is. It is. And people should, well, don't make people do anything, but it would be good if people would think about that.
Yeah.
Because you're a long time dead. So you might as well enjoy yourself and enjoy your family. And I do know a lot of people who have who've stopped the work who were working in the same section I was working in, who just stopped and went and did something else. Fantastic, fantastic. Totally different direction in career, or just cut things down and became themselves. And that's so important. So important. And I know lots of people can't do that. They just cannot do that. But some people can,
I think that's so true, because it's very easy to say, well, just leave. That's not an easy thing to do.
No.
But I think if you can, and it's something you want to do it,
Yeah.
and for others, it's not so easy.
Exactly. Mm.
Have you done anything reckless?
Have I done anything reckless? I've been married 4 times.
Have you? Oh,
yeah. Maybe I don't want to go into that too much. I've been married 4 times. Yeah. That's a lot, isn't it?
And are you still married now to number 4?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes. We've been married for 33. He's going to shout up the stairs in a minute. We've been 34 years.
Oh, yeah, so you had 3. You got married 3 times, very, very early on. Then.
I was first married when I was 19. Yeah.
Wow.
But they didn't last very long. No.
What did you learn from them?
What I learned from them?
Yeah.
Probably not very much, actually, because I went on to make the same mistake 2 more times, except for the husband. I went on to, shall I say this? They were quite abusive people.
Okay.
So it's the same thing in each one. They were abusive. And I can track that back to my childhood. So, but reckless. Yeah, I just used to, did I do reckless things? I think that was pretty reckless. But was it reckless? I think I was just looking for someone to love me, really. Getting a bit sad now, isn't it? But they were reckless people, so I had a really good time, if that makes sense. They were like crazy people. But they're also violent.
Yeah, and I mean, who doesn't want love? And I mean, what interests me is, how did you break that pattern?
By losing everything. Took a long time, didn't it? By losing everything during the ovate.
Oh, that's when that happened. So, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit complicated.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's when it broke. That you have to be yourself, because when you become yourself, my daughter is such a strong woman. If somebody said something to her, she'd go, I don't think so. I mean, she's very lovely, but she's a very strong person. And my son is strong as well. And I'm so pleased that they are like that. I'm so pleased that she's a strong woman with she's got a good sense of humor, but, she'll defend, she loves her children. She's got, she's married, she's doing okay. She's had some tough periods in her life as well, but she's such a strong woman. And she'll say to me, sometimes she feels like my mother. And I think, God, I wish that was my mother, because my mother was not like that.
Yeah.
My mother was very timid, and my father was a bully. So there you go. Sorry, mother and father, but yeah. So it was a household that I came from. My brother and I came from. Yeah.
Okay.
So I made some bad mistakes, really,
and learned. And Gabriella says you are very strong. So, but you are, Gail.
Oh. Well, thank you. I mean, I have learned. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I've learned slowly, but I think I've been knocked on quite a few times and I haven't listened. So it's my own fault. I got the tower in the end.
I think many people can identify with that.
I think once sorry.
Go on. You go on.
Once I started looking at esoteric things. That was
Yes.
when I started to journey. I was quite frightened to begin with because I thought the devil was going to get me, but it didn't. He didn't. It didn't. But yeah, once I started looking into esoteric things, probably when I was in my early mid 40s, probably, I started to learn things about myself. So I'm very thankful that that lady came in to see her dad and wanted to do Reiki, and I found out about it, and that took me down another lane and learned all about all sorts of weird and wonderful things, and met some weird and wonderful people.
Beautiful.
So yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, Gabriella says, I don't think there were mistakes. There was a pattern and you were running it. So when we're looking at the modern world now, what concerns do you have
about the modern world? I think the big concern at the moment is what does the future hold for children of 3 and 4 at this moment? You know, what does it hold? What resources do they need? Because it's going to change, isn't it? Well, it's changing already, but what resources do those children need to be able to, well, live, but live a joyful life? You know, what messages should parents be helping their children with now? What tools should they be giving to their children? Because I think it gets forgotten in, you know, TV and media and stuff like that. I don't. Yeah, I think it's it's so awful, isn't it? Really, what humans have managed to do, including myself, over just a few sort of couple of 100 years. Really, it's yeah. So my concerns are for future generations. You know, are they gonna have any happiness? Are they going to find joy? You know, are they gonna just have to? I don't know. And that does concern me, especially having just listened to COP. You know, the COP result and things like that. I've only just started. There's sort of an activism group as well that I belong to, and was planting some oak trees and sending out prayers to try and, or messages to try and get COP to, you know, come up with some good ideas. So difficult, isn't it? Because the world is all tangled, and you never really know what's at the bottom of those tangles. I'm not a conspiracy theory person, but you never know what's at the bottom of those tangles and what the agendas are. But yeah, I'm worried for the children of the world. What's their future going to be like? You know, not worried. I'm sad. I'm sad that they might not have joy, that they might just have to scrabble. But will they be? Maybe they'll be courageous and strong and push through and boot everything out and start again. Hopefully.
It's interesting. I think, well, we always want to protect children, and we don't want them to make the same mistakes we did, and that, you know, urge to protect them and keep them safe. And then when you look at, you know, the adversity we've experienced in our own lives and how we've come through, and I suppose it's, I mean, I identify with your sadness for the next generations, but that honoring them as best we can so that they have that innate strength and that they're able to listen to themselves and stand strong in it and not be motivated through so much fear. And I mean, even this pandemic has generated so much fear, so much divisiveness. When I see little children going around the streets with their parents wearing masks, and what's it like for a child, you know, 4 going to school who has to wear them? And they're not doing, some places they're doing it, where wearing a mask and how they engage through a mask and eye contact. I remember in theatre as a student nurse wearing a mask, and I would always wink at the patient so that they could see me because they couldn't see me smile, but that they could, or I would touch them and squeeze their hands so they knew that I was with them in some way. How we need to navigate communication through just eyes and no, limited facial expression, but that we can instill in them that strength that they get, from home, and
hopefully,
so that they can stand strong, and learn to say no, learn to speak up for themselves, and learn to unite, and all of that.
Absolutely, and keep it real. Keep it real. What is actually happening, and keep it real, and don't be swayed. Well, it's hard. It's easy to say, isn't it? Don't be swayed by media and falsities.
That's right.
Reality, as you say. Yeah.
Yes. Zane says the prospect can be sad, but I believe that we are here as ancestor bridges to support future generations. That's why what we do in the now matters. I couldn't agree with you more, Zane. I think that's very important. It's what the children in our own lives, what we instill in them, what we give them, what we teach them. And that's each one of us who has children or grandchildren or children that we're taking care of or we're teaching or whatever it is, that we can hand that over. I think that's really, really important. What would you say gives you hope within that sadness?
The fact that humans are still here after all the trials and tribulations of all the centuries, and with Ice Age and going back. I mean, we're still here. I presume everyone worked more with the land then. I think you'd have to, wouldn't you? You'd have to be part of the land, wouldn't you, and be part of what's going on. You wouldn't maybe be controlling it other than just catching fish or something. I'm probably being too simplistic, but what gives me hope? Human determination gives me hope.
Yeah.
Human determination through adversity. Yeah. There's enough movies about it at the moment. There's enough movies on Netflix about it. Yeah, we're going to win.
Stephanie says, I have immense hope in the younger generations. They are so outspoken and are refusing to live in the same old system.
They are. I'd have to say that my grandchildren, who are, they're both going to be 4 soon. One's 4 and one's going to be 4 soon. They seem to know their own mind. They tell me how it is, and and even the 1-year-olds are like, no, and I'm going to, and I'll have that, but in a nice way, not in a horrible way. I'd probably put that down to their parenting, actually. And I'd like to think that parenting has come a little bit from my husband and myself as well, giving them a secure base to go from. Yeah, but there are a lot of children who don't have that secure base. Who don't have that secure base, and unfortunately.
I know. Yeah. And I know from how I have, how did I brought up our children compared to how we were brought up? I mean, we were never allowed to contradict our parents, argue. There was formality, and my kids have argued left, right, and center, challenge me. And it's been really, really, I admire them for it, to be able to. Yeah. Well, there have been times when I needed Nanny McPhee. Yeah. But I see my daughter still at school and how she challenges everything. It's like, why would you do this? Why? Where I was compliant. I was a good little girl. I wanted to be liked just like you. And I never wanted to get into trouble. People find that very hard to believe me now, but I was so compliant. Right in my teens, never broke a rule.
I understand that. I understand that. I suppose that as long as the challenges are done in a not a thoughtful way, but an honourable way, It's not just shouting and firing guns and hitting people and stuff like that. It's about learning how to communicate in an honourable way, but still get that point across.
And being respectful, but
being respectful, and that's quite difficult to learn. But once it's learned, I think it's, you're in there really.
It's funny I think once you learn that, you can't let that go, because it's you learn to ride a bike, you can't unlearn it. That there's certain, you've woken up, you can't go back to sleep.
No, that's right.
Even if everything is constrained around you, but what's inside is still alive, aware, and standing in strength. So yeah,
exactly.
So we're coming to the end. So I always ask this question. Well, there's two parts. What is your favorite season and your favorite ceremony in the Wheel of the Year?
My favorite season is autumn.
Yeah.
It always has been autumn. I'm born in January. I don't know if that's got anything to do with it, but autumn and winter. Autumn, winter are my favorite seasons. I love to see the changes. And I know that there's going to be rebirth after Yule, and things are going to move around again. But I absolutely love to see the gentleness that comes out during that season, the showing of the truth, and the colours really. I know I know the scientific reason, but to me it's sort of the showing of the truth of the colours, and just sort of the acceptance. Everything seems to accept everything else, and how wonderful nature is at providing. You see the hawthorn berries coming out, you see all the red berries coming out that are going to feed everything, are going to feed the animals through the winter. It's just I think nature does really well during that season. They sort of calms down on one side, changes the colours, and gets really ready to feed everything through the cold months. Yeah, I love it. And I like the clothes as well. I like to wear scarves and boots and stuff.
Wrapping up. Yeah.
And my favourite celebration is actually summer solstice.
Okay.
I think somebody has a bet on this, don't they? Who's going to?
She says Bealtaine, but sorry, Gabrielle.
Is summer solstice. I've always absolutely loved the sun at the height of its peak, and where I am at that time, because we used to go to different places. I've also had the honour of calling the casting of the circle on top of the tour at one of the OBOD summer gatherings, and the eye of light, and you're standing there looking at the tower, and I just absolutely love it. I love the summer solstice. I love the energy. I like Beltane energy, but the summer solstice is just like the pinnacle. It's like the king, and the king and the queen, and the lord and the lady of the land. I love it, absolutely love it. I do.
Well, we've come to the end of our chat, and you've been an absolutely wonderful guest, Gail. Really enjoyed our conversation.
Oh, thank you.
And,
thank you.
So I want to thank you so much. And
you're most welcome.
Anna says thank you for a wonderful fireside chat. Gabrielle is going to bring a dowsing crystal the next time to sort out her betting. So Stephanie says this has been my favorite fireside chat to date. So many comments. So I will say goodbye to you, but stay where you are, because we'll come back in. We can look at the comments after we go off the air.
Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it as well. I was very nervous, but I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
It didn't show.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. So thank you very much, all of you, for your comments and your questions. I know we didn't get to deal with all of them, but sometimes they just fly by, and we're caught in the moment. So yes, Gail was a wonderful guest, and thank you for joining us. And I look forward to seeing you next week. So to join me for another fireside chat. In the meantime, slán go fóill.